Hi, once again, welcome to a collection video here on YouTube on Retro Bear, and that's me, if you haven't gathered already. I thought from one Retro Bear to another, we'd have this week's Chef's Choice. Here's our old friend Banjo. This one is Banjo-Kazooie on the N64. Unlike myself, he plays a banjo. Unlike him, I don't have a bird strapped to the back of my head, but there we go. Yeah, it's ironic doing this, and actually, I've run Nintendo 64 games on my last few collection videos. I'm actually going to do a Nintendo console today. You'll already know that because it says so on the title card. That's why the title card is there. So today we're going to go and look at a console which I seem to remember mostly from giving me a lot of pain. Not because I dropped one of my foot or someone threw one at me, but my mates constantly used to kick my backside about on the games that they owned. So was the case. If they came round to my house and played my Amiga games, I would have done exactly the same to them. And this is the Super Nintendo, or SNES, or Super Famicom, or I don't know, whatever you want to call it. Here is mine. As you can see, it's a pretty good one as well. A little bit of yellowing around the front here, which is always the case with these, but I've seen these actually sort of like completely yellow. It's not bad at all. I picked this up about 10 years ago, when you can still pick these things up for about 15-20 quid. I actually got it with a load of games, which was even better. And it works beautifully fine. I had it running a few days ago. You can see it's very little to go with it. On the back there's the sort of where we got the power cable, we got the RF out, and also there's the multi out, which again allows you to run it through a TV, which has got the RGB connections on your TV. Not an awful lot at the front. 2 control ports. You've got the reset, that really rather meaty eject button, and the power on off there. You've also got your cartridge slot. There we go. So yeah, not a bad one at all. This is the model number, just for those of you who are interested in these sort of things, which is the Sierra November Sierra Papa -001A, or SNSP -001A for you who don't know the phonetic alphabet. Serial number is Uniform Papa, your UP 153-71578. Copyright 1992, made in Japan. Also got one of those extension ports on the bottom, which they seem to have all these consoles. I have no idea what they're for. I'm not about to open it. All 4 pads are in place as well to balance it out, and actually I'm very proud of that condition. I think it's really good. I've seen some rotten looking ones of these. I do keep it covered. I do keep a bag over it, because where the room is, there's a direct sunlight into the corner here, so I do keep that over there just to keep the fade on it and keep it in reasonably good condition. I'm sure this now is about 45-50 quid just on its own. So I always wanted one of these. I must be honest with you, I always wanted one back in the day. Not because, I suppose because my friends had one, and I wanted to play the same games they did. And that may be the reason why I wanted it, but I just love it. I think it's just a nice piece of kit. It's in that classic Nintendo grey, which I don't really like. But then again, if you look at the American version, which has got the purple sort of, that looks a bit clumsy to me. Like the cartridges look a lot clumsy. They're sort of like got the indents around the outside, and it just doesn't quite look as good as these ones. So, but yeah, so there we go. That's the Super Nintendo. Now, again, not a huge amount of games for this one, and the majority of the games I've got for this are loose. And that's because it's an absolute pain in the arse to get hold of decent quality boxed SNES games, because they're well, just difficult to get hold of, and because they're all in cardboard boxes, it's even possible. You know, I have a small NES collection, none of those are boxed. I have an N64 collection, probably about a third of that, maybe a third to a quarter to a third of that is boxed. Of these here, probably about, I don't know how many games I've got now, I can't remember. Yeah, not many of these are boxed. And I did buy a box one a few weeks ago, which I'll show you through. What I'll do, I'll go through the loose stuff first, and then I'll show you the box stuff at the end. In terms of sort of interesting peripherals, there was I think there was a like we said with the Mega Drive one, there was a arcade joystick, I think. There was also a light gun for it called the Nintendo Super Scope, which had a cartridge of about 6 games that came with it as well. And also a unit which would be able to react with the Super Scope. I bought a Super Scope at a car boot for £1, many years ago, but it didn't have either the cartridge or, as I found out a number of years later, the infrared sensor. But it just looks good. It's like a rocket launcher. It's great. When I do my box of peripherals collection, I'll show you that. I'm looking forward to that. But I won't show it here because it's part of something else. So let's go through some of these games that I've got. I'll just pick these off the pile at random because I don't know what they are because I can't see most of them. So first one up is the customary American football game Madden 95. I'm going to get real close for this, aren't I? Madden 95, which is in fine condition. You'll notice I put a label across the top here which actually tells me what it is. Can you see that there? Yeah, Madden 95. It's because, one, the problem with these cartridges, unlike say the NES ones, was that the label sort of finishes there with the design, so you can't actually flip it. What the idea would be, saying the Mega Drive one, you could flip it over and tell you what it is, so you could sort of put it on your shelf and you can see what they are. Also, the fact that whoever had this before me and I've got quite a few which I bought in a lot, has written the name in pen across the top of it, so I had to put a label over it. You can't see that very long. I'm trying to get a bit closer with this one. See, I'll put that there. You might just be able to make out as a pen mark underneath over here. There we go. Where he's written Madden 95 on it. So I'm about to make my own label and stick across there. And the labels are gradually coming off because the glue's wearing out. So, but yeah, why? But then again, if that's the only way you could identify your cartridges, you can understand. But why write on them in indelible pen? They won't come off. Next one up, Mickey Mania, which is a game I absolutely loved. A friend of mine had this on the Mega Drive. I also had it on the PlayStation 1. I bought it when it came out. And it was to celebrate, I think, was it the 70th anniversary of Mickey Mouse? No, probably before that, 65th or something like that. I can't remember. It was at the time we won a Mickey Mouse's birthdays anyway. Probably this one, because it was 1993. It came out on the PlayStation 1 as Mickey's Great Adventure, Big Adventure, a few years afterwards. It must come out in 93, I'm guessing, because I'd have been at university. 94, Steamboat Willie was 28. Yeah, 65 years or something like that anyway. So that's Mickey Mania. Very good game, actually. Graphically very good for the time. Gets some fiendishly difficult jumps in that game, if I remember. But yeah, there's also a sequence where you're running towards the screen, where you've got the being chased by a moose. Yeah, it'll mean something to somebody. This one is Dennis, which was based on the cartoon, which was then based on the film, which was a load of rubbish. That's a career block for Walter Matthau. This was done by Ocean, which I'm really surprised about, because it's but then I'm not surprised because the game is actually one of their generic movie time platformers. It doesn't get very favourable opinions, this one, and well, the film doesn't either, to be honest with you, the game as well. But again, this came in that bundle of stuff that was there, so I wish they'd come in boxes. They might actually be worth something. Whether anybody actually want this or not, I don't know. I won't. I don't think I've actually ever bothered sticking it in the system. Next, Nigel Mansell's World Championship Racing, which came out in a number of formats. He's not a bad little racer, actually. Not a bad little racer. Nothing special about it. Nigel Mansell, for those who don't remember, was a great Formula 1 driver back in the day. Was a Formula 1 world champion. If you ever see a footage of an old Williams Formula 1 car driving towards you and the tyre explodes in a flash of sparks and Murray Walker going, "Look at that!" Then you'll know who Nigel Mansell was. But there we go. Possibly the worst Murray Walker impression ever. There we go. You didn't expect to see that one, did you? I don't know where that came from, to be honest with you. Somewhere up there. Next one. This one is actually a decent game, you'll be surprised to see, which is Super Mario All-Stars. This contains updated 16-bit versions of Mario 1, 2 and 3 and the Lost Levels. The Lost Levels, I think, if memory serves me correctly, was the original Japanese game. Because the Japanese, the PAL release for Mario 2 was different to the one that came out in Japan, so the Lost Levels technically became that game anyway. But I got that in a charity shop for a fiver a few years back. They wanted a tenner for it, and I went back 3 weeks later. It's still there. They knocked it down to a fiver, so I bought it. I've got Super Mario World, which is probably the one I would want for that system. Is it World? Yes. Land was Super Mario Land was the Game Boy game. Super Mario World was. I'm not a big Mario fan. that one doesn't sort of interest me. Bought this to celebrate my 100 subscribers a few weeks back. This is Killer Instinct, which I've still not played. Fighting game, lots of big sort of characters. I get this confused with Primal Rage, which one is in, this one isn't. This is the other one. But I like the cartridge. In fact, it came in a black cartridge, which is, I think that's quite snazzy. Not my sort of favourite genre of game, but there we go. I got this at a car boot. Probably one of the last times I went to a car boot. When I was sort of rampaging through game collections, and this is based on the Addams Family cartoon. This is Pugsley's Scavenger Hunt. Addams Family cartoon was very popular then, I think. You had the Addams Family film, which came out in '91. There was Addams Family Values, and there was the other sequels which nobody really cares about. And then they pulled out a cartoon of it based on I think the original design, the original cartoon strip where it came from. Not played that one, but that was a car boot one. Just walking around and somebody got it for sale for £1, I think it was, something like that. We've already seen this guy once already, so we're going to have a quick nose at him again. This is the legend that is John Madden. This is Madden 93. I played Madden first of all back on the Amiga when they brought a version out of that, which must have been sort of 1990, 1991. And I love the Madden games. They're a bit more complicated now to play. They weren't overly easy when they first came out. I got to know a bit about American football. I love American football. It's one of my favourite sports. It's probably my third favourite sport, to be honest with you. And usually sort of September until February, sort of every Sunday spent desperately trying to watch what the 49ers have been up to, which in most cases in the last few years has not been a great deal. Many of the time the TV's been turned off before half time, but that's Madden 93 anyway. Next up, ropey tie-ins with films. This is Cliffhanger, Stallone Cliffhanger. This was Stallone's big film comeback in 93, 94 I think it was, after he'd made some disastrous attempts at comedy films like Stop or My Mum Will Shoot and Oscar. If you've ever seen those films, don't bother. If you haven't seen those films, they are just not worth your time. And then this was sort of his big return to action roles. Demolition Man I think came out shortly afterwards as well. Judge Dredd. But this is a terrible game, absolutely terrible game. The film is much better. The film is very, very good, but this is a stinker. Very difficult to play and incredibly unfair. But then again, most games were like that back in the day, weren't they? I got this on the Game Boy Color, I think, and this is another ocean game. It's another platformer, surprise, surprise, but this is Mr. Nuts. It's about a squirrel. Not to be confused with Conker, which is also about a squirrel, but that's completely different. Don't get the two confused. Well, you won't get the two confused, because this will cost you peanuts and Conker will cost you a bloody fortune. I've not played this one actually. I've got to be honest with you. I played the handheld version much more, so I'm not sure if that's any good or not. But Mr. Nuts, again, it's got that writing on there. It's come out of that bundle. If you know anything about any of these games, please let me know, because I know very little about them. Oh, it's a real ratty old copy, this, isn't it? Eek, God. Horrible looking thing, this one. This has come from somewhere called Microplay, which we buy, sell, rent, trade and repair. There we go, video game store. But yes, a horrible nasty looking copy of FIFA 96. You see that on the far side, some damage to the label. There's a label stuck across the front of it. It's got possibly Curry on the back of it. I'm hoping it's Curry. Yeah, it's a really nasty looking copy of that one. It's FIFA. What more can you say? It's probably got one new thing you can do in it. This I bought, it's probably one of the very last times I bought something from eBay. I'm desperately trying to remember how long ago it was. I think I bought Perfect Dark on the N64. I bought a Commodore 64 job lot and this game. I think that was the last time I was on eBay, about 8 years ago. Which is, I used to use eBay all the time for everything, and I just don't do online buying now. The only one I buy online now is Amazon. I can't be bothered to buy anywhere else and do anything this way. This is Dragon's Lair, and it's not as bad as some of the Dragon's Lair games, but it's not great. I will be honest with you. It's more from the platform point of view rather than trying to recreate the arcade game. It's a nice condition copy. I think I paid about £3 for it, so I was just trying to find cheap N64 games, cheap Super Nintendo games that I could pick up, and that was the first one I bought and the last one. Well, it's a nice looking. Actually, it's a very nice cartridge. It's a very, very, very good condition one. But that was £3 I think from eBay, including the old postage. It's not great. Like most of these games, they're not great. Speaking of not great, here's another one for you. From really bad films, The Page Master, which was a live-action stroke cartoon film starring Macaulay Culkin when he was still a star. This probably would have been a couple of years removed from Home Alone, probably not long after Home Alone 2, I'm guessing, before his career went down the pan. Virgin game. That's all I can tell you about it. I've never seen either the film nor played the game, but I know the game's a platformer. I'm hoping it'll be some sort of a rarity, but it's probably about as rare as a bag of chips from a chip shop, so not much going on with that one. Super WWF WrestleMania. I thought I had this on the Mega Drive, but I got the Royal Rumble. I remember a friend of mine got this. He actually bought a Super Nintendo, got his parents bought him a Super Nintendo purely to play this. This was how things were back then. I want a Super Nintendo because I want to play Super WWF WrestleMania. I'm not sure whether they played it around his house first or whether around somebody else's house. But I remember being distinctly unimpressed by it, because I'd played the Ocean tie-in WrestleMania game that came out on the Amiga and all the 8-bits. And that was distinctly unimpressive as well. The best thing about that game was the fact that if you bought the 16-bit version, you've got a 5-minute video of sort of like wrestling action, which is great. I think I might still have that somewhere. I'm sure I have still got it somewhere. Not the game, the video. So when this came out, I was sort of expecting it to be blown out the water. Because bear in mind, you'd seen things like the Superstars arcade machine, you'd seen things like WrestleFest. This was nothing like it. This was basically a load of generic moves. I can't remember if it's this game or the other one where all the ending move, all the special moves are missing off it. I'm pretty sure it was this one. But you weren't able to do them. It just basically punch, kick, etc. Wasn't an awful lot to it. Even the music was a bit horrible, sort of like reggae introduction type music, and the themes weren't particularly accurate. The most accurate one probably was the Natural Disasters theme tune. I did listen to them the other day, and they weren't that bad as I remember, but they just weren't as good as you thought they would be. And it was a bit of a disappointment, that game. Not a great game at all. I feel just the Mega Drive version is so easy to play and finish. It's just a waste of time. What have we got here? A 12 meg cartridge. That means something to somebody, I'm sure. This is Bugs Bunny's Rabbit Rampage, which is very impressively technically to look at. I played it a few times. It's quite a decent arcade feel to it. Really good sort of cartoony graphics. Like I said before, I love Looney Tunes, so anything like that it works for me. Played it briefly. I need to put a bit more time into it, really. It's not one of those dreadful crazy castle games. I've got one of those on the handheld, I think. But yeah, this is alright actually. It's not too bad. I still don't think they've made a Looney Tunes game that sort of captures the Looney Tunes, which is a bit silly really. You'd have thought they'd have done something like that by now, but no, they haven't. Next up, one of my all-time least favourite games. This is Super Street Fighter. It's not Super. It's Street Fighter 2, the original, the World Warrior. Not the Warrior Within. That's Prince of Persia, the World Warrior. Fascinating story about this. My mate, when he bought this when it first came out, paid £65 for that when it came out. 65, Nicker. This is not the copy. I bought this from a car boot sale for £2. But yeah, he paid £65 when this came out. Bonkers. And that was 1991. Can you imagine how much that'd be worth now? In inflation, up and down, adjusting for the cost of living, etc. How much that game would literally be the equivalent of being now? It's got to be 150, 200 quid. I would have thought. I don't know, maybe not. I could be exaggerating. It just seemed an awful lot of money to pay. £65. Used to moan back in the day you had to pay £10 for a game, or £20, £25 for an Amiga game. When this stuff came out, it was like 40, 50 quid. It was just insane amounts of money. 65. yeah, I can't remember what the most I've ever spent on a game is. That would be interesting to work out what it would be. Probably no more than 20 quid. Don't think I've ever paid more than 25 quid for a game. But yeah, Street Fighter 2, one of my least favourite games of all time. That was one of the games I used to get my backside constantly kicked on. Which is why I don't like it. It's bad memories, you sort of load that up and I see the screen, I start going, maybe not quite like that, I don't know. Yeah, this is Dragon, the Bruce Lee story, which is also based on the film. It's not bad, this one. It's a bit tricky, I've got to be honest with you. It's a bit hard to get used to. Took me a while to master the controls and work out what the bloody hell's going on. But yeah, I didn't like the idea of being beaten up by a sailor on the second screen or the third screen or something like that. But there we go. Story of my life, really. That will probably happen in real life. I was a pretty big sailor. Yeah, don't know much more about that really. So that was a rather poor anecdote. Needless to say, I had the last laugh. But yeah, I think graphically that's quite a good game. You like your big graphics. It's quite good. Beyond that, I can't tell you much about it. I love this game. Love this game and this cartoon. Animaniacs. What a classic this is. Absolutely brilliant game. Absolutely brilliant TV series as well. So out there. That and Tiny Toons Adventures were absolutely fantastic back in the day. Used to race home from school to watch that. That was something else. And this is really good. This captures the actual sort of spirit of the cartoon. And it's a really nice condition cartridge as well. Apart from the fact that some tonks written underneath that in black indelible pen. But hey ho. Yeah, really, really good fun, that one. If you haven't got a copy, I did mention it to somebody, I'm pretty sure it was Nathan Retro, when he bought his Super Nintendo and he wanted a recommendation. I said, get Animaniacs. And he did, I think. Which is even more worrying that someone took my advice. Don't take any more advice from me. That's enough. This is a game I didn't really particularly have much fondness for either, which is Striker. I just felt this game was a bit naff. A lot of people raved about it. Said, "Oh, it's brilliant, this game," and it's sort of like really good football game. I played Super Soccer on the Super Nintendo when that came out. That was rubbish. But this one, I just didn't feel any affinity with it whatsoever. Someone's ringing my doorbell downstairs. I wonder who that could possibly be. Back in a moment. Yes, I really need to make sure the door is open so the other half can get back in when she's been out, and I left it on the lock. So I should have done it before I came upstairs, but not to worry. So we were doing Striker. I've completely lost my flow, so we'll just keep going. Next up, this one I think is quite a valuable game. It's from Capcom. It's also another Disney game, and this is Goof Troop, which is based on the Disney cartoon, which I didn't really watch. And it's a sort of like a maze puzzle game where you've got to sort of walk through different screens and do certain things. It's actually quite a good game. It's not bad at all. But I've never really sort of played a great deal of it. Horrible yellow back to it. The cover's nice, but the back is yellow, which means it's probably more like that. I'm guessing. I don't know. But yeah, it's an alright game, that one. Right, so we've got two more loose to do, and then we're on to the box stuff. This one I also got for a £5 as well. This is Donkey Kong Country, which sort of changed the way platform games were. If you remember, this had some really sort of like fancy graphics to go with it, and almost like digitised graphics, but they were, unlike FMV or other digitised graphics, they were really quite good. Really good game as well. It gets fiendishly difficult at times. Again, when I picked up Super Mario All-Stars, I also bought this at the same time. They had both those games in, both priced at a tenner, and then when I came back a few weeks later, they were then priced at a £5, so I snapped both those up. Well worth it, and good game, that one, definitely worth having. I think 2 and 3 are also pretty good as well. I think 3 is quite a rare one if you have that knocking around. And then finally, the loose games. I had this on display a few weeks ago on the Chef's Selection, and this is Starwing. Not a great fan of Starwing, I have to be honest with you. I'm much more of a fan of Lilac Wars. I thought that was a much better game. But yeah, it was quite different. It also makes use, you can see there, of the FX chip, which was a sort of something that was built in to do 3D and decent effects. Yeah, it's not a bad game. but Lilac Wars is much better. End of story. So those are all the loose cartridges I've got. I've only got 4 games a box. One of these will be quite recent purchase, if those of you who will regular viewers to the channel will notice. I picked this up from CX a few weeks ago because I'd had a traded some stuff in and got some cash left over, and what I picked up here is the Tiny Toons Adventures Buster Bus Loose, which is one of the great platform games, and also it looks absolutely fantastic even to this day. It is just such a graphical delight to watch. Really good sound effects as well. Captures the spirit of the cartoon, if you remember that from back in the same time as Animaniacs. This was the first one, actually. This was the first one they tried to sort of redo Looney Tunes, but for like a modern generation, and it was just brilliant. This one does come complete with the manual and the cartridge as well. I'm not going to get all that out because I don't want to get it all back in again. You've seen that in the previous video anyway. Take my word for it. That cost me 18 quid. This one cost me probably very little from a car boot sale. Do like my old golf games, so we got PGA Tour 96. Which wasn't that traditional PGA Tour game. I'm going to try and get this one out if I can. Yes, there we go. I'm very pleased to say this comes with the insert, so you can see it's got the cartridge there on the inside. Also, I'm pretty sure it's a poster in it. Yeah. With is that Colin Montgomery, the former European Ryder Cup player and captain? So poster inside that one, which I didn't know was in there. The THQ registration card. Always fun to find those in there. And there's the manual, which is a bit dog-eared. But again, I found this in the box at a car boot sale, and I would have paid, you know, peanuts for this, because there's not a lot of value in sports games, let alone golf games. This is why I didn't get the Tiny Toons one out, because I'm going to be fiddling around trying to put this back in again. I can't remember which Pickups video that was. I'll have to go back and look at it. But that's quite a nice one. I'm going to show this off on my all-time Pickups video. This is another version of Jurassic Park I have. Again, nice condition box. I think I got paid 3 quid for this possibly, and I know now it's sort of in the 20s, possibly a little bit more than that. Where have we got now? So there's the manual, all complete, and you can see there's the box, and there's the cart. So don't have many complete Super Nintendo games, but the ones I do have are super complete because it's a Super Nintendo. And then the last one, which is a bit bashed, as you will see by the giant sticker on the front. Basically, I think they were selling this to Stevie Wonder. Damaged box sold as Steam. This is the NBA Jam, which I again not a big fan of. Anybody could see that box was damaged, and that giant sticker is never going to come off that safely. It's sort of complete. There's the manual, which is not in great nick, and the little cardboard insert that appears to have something eaten at the bottom of it, whether they've got hungry through a game or not, but it's got the cartridge in there. I actually had 2 versions of this at one time. I had a loose copy and this one. I knew that would happen because it's now not going to get back in the box. And I traded the loose one in because there was some value to it. So obviously traded the decent looking one in. That's not going to go back in the box. I'll fiddle around with that afterwards. And there we go. That is my Super Nintendo collection, which I hope you've enjoyed. There are some good games in there, I think, and some not so good games in there. But then again, if they're all gold, then, well, what will be the point? Thank you very much indeed for watching. Sorry for the interruption halfway through, but as always, we get by these things. If you have liked what you've seen, please do feel free to like, subscribe, comment, and tick that notification bell for more videos. I'm going off to do something completely different, and I will see you again very, very soon. Thank you very much for watching. Take care.